to be under the sea. Ain't an octopus has got with you.
And a new voice from the Sydney Underwater Gazette Facebook page. Welcome to the weekend show, Nyrie Palmer. How are you?
Hi, Simon. I'm great. Thank you.
You put your hand up to give Stephen Marco a sleep in, so we'll speak to you over the next time as well, joining the crew. And your first topic is one of my favourite creatures.
I'm glad to hear that. Yes, today we're going to be speaking about Cookiecutter sharks.
Because they are amazing sea creatures, and we'll see them in the waters around Sydney.
That's absolutely right. So these are absolutely amazing sea creatures that you can see in the water around Sydney, and they're one of the most bizarre. They're actually deep sea sharks, so they migrate from about 1 kilometre below the surface up to the top to feed at night around Sydney.
And what do they look like?
Well, Cookiecutter sharks are really unusual. They have really skinny bodies with tiny fins, so they look like cigars. And they were actually called cigar sharks. And they're really small. They only grow to about 0.5 metre long.
And they glow in the dark, don't they?
Yes. They're one of the creatures that you can see around Sydney that are bioluminescent. And Marco spoke about them the other week. And the glowing in the dark helps them to attract the prey, but it also helps to camouflage them. And even more clever still, they're counter-illuminated. So they're dark when the predators see them from above, and they're light when they're seen from below.
That is so clever.
Yeah, it really is. And the light, when seen from below, prevents the predators from looking up and spotting their silhouette against the sky. And the light breaks up the edge of their bodies, so that really hides them.
Now, there's a really good reason why they're called Cookiecutter sharks.
Absolutely. So the other amazing thing about these fish is that their teeth are just so different to other sharks. They've got rows of small teeth on their upper jaw, but one really long single tooth at the bottom that's serrated like a steak knife or pinking shears, and they're really spiky and triangular.
And they actually will remove a round chunk of flesh from their prey.
Oh, yeah. So it's a bit disturbing when you imagine it, but when these sharks attack, they often attack in schools, and they sprint up from the depth and they bite their prey with their teeth, and they latch on with their suction cupped lips, which really sounds like a bad Tinder date, doesn't it?
It does.
But once they've latched on, they twist like a cookie cutter, and they take a chunk out of the doughy flesh of their prey, and then they dart away back into their depths so that the prey doesn't even know what's hit them.
So what is this prey?
So, they don't eat cookies. They take bites out of all sorts of things, but they prefer large things. So they eat marlin and seals and whales and orcas and catamarans.
Catamarans?
Yes. So this month, 3 people were rescued off their inflatable catamaran in the Coral Sea, about 850 kilometres off the coast from Cairns. And these people were trying to travel around their world in a catamaran, but they started to sink. And when they were rescued, it was discovered that the catamaran's inflatable rubber balloons were just covered with these mysterious circular marks.
Wow.
But marine biologists immediately recognised these cookie-shaped cuts and identified the culprit was likely a whole school of cookie-cutter sharks that thought the catamaran was something swimming on the surface or a really tasty carcass.
So are they dangerous to humans?
No, they're not. Like many other sharks feeding on humans and catamarans would be a mistaken identity. And although the bite would be nasty, these sharks are relatively small. So to humans and fish, the main risk of their bite would really be for infection. And for fishermen, the price they'd get for the bitten fish at the markets would be the main risk for them.
That's where I've seen them. I thought they were actually some sort of scientific judging of the flesh because it's so round and so good. And they've spotted between the heads at Sydney Harbour.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, isn't it? You'd think that these are mysterious creatures in the Marianas Trench or something, but you can um, find them and evidence of them in the waters around Sydney, and they've been seen between the heads.
Wow.
And as a scuba diver, I'd love to see them, and I've got no fear of them taking a bite out of me or my gear. But I think that seeing them in Sydney Harbour would be such a lucky sighting because they spend most of their time in really deep waters.
Wow, the Cookiecutter shark. If you're going underwater this weekend, what's it going to be like?
Well, not so great this weekend, I'm afraid. This morning there's a slight swell of 1.2 metres high from the south-southeast. The swell period will be 11 seconds, so the swell will be felt to a depth of about 30 metres. The temperature of the water is warming up, but it's still at 18 degrees, so keep the 7 mil wetsuit on. And visibility is at 2 to 3 metres, so keep macro photography happening. But at the moment, you'll still see incredible critters. You'll see wobbegong sharks, seahorses, weedy sea dragons, pork jacksons, but not likely any cookie-cutter sharks, especially during the day.
Well, that's a relief for those diving, and we can see the images on the Sydney Underwater Gazette Facebook page. Great to have you on deck, Nyrie.
Thank you so much. I'll speak to you soon.
Nyrie Palmer from the Sydney Underwater Gazette.